Janine. Janine will let them in. So welcome everybody to Super Tuesday as we talk about growth, our growth series. And as you recognize, I'm not Ty Woods. I am Chris Woods. I am the CEO of Opportunity Knox. So I'm filling in for Ty this week, and it's a pleasure. Please wish her well as she is recovering from being sick this week. But we know that it's been a great series. We had some great guests on this phenomenal series, and I'm filling in for our wonderful business grant CEO, Ms. Ty Woods. And so I want to definitely give you all a warm welcome for our powerful guests this go around. We have with us Mary, as she talks about her platform. She is a guest for, as a great worldwide philanthropist. Her brilliant mind is behind the Hey Funder. And that platform helps to dedicate and help executives and funders master the art of major gifts. And I don't know about you, but I love to find out and pick her brain about major gifts. Those gifts are crucial to high level transformation donors, and we can truly change the game for our organization. So, Mary is a phenomenal leader with so much experience, and she can help pull the curtain behind what's going on, what steps we need to take as we build authentic donor relationships and make confident asks as we steward support for lifelong championship for our organization. So without further ado, I want to welcome our guest, Mary Peterson, as she talks about gathering major donors. And I'm sure she has so many other nutshells that we can gather from. So welcome, Mary, to the platform.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Talking about major gifts is my most favorite thing in the world. So you'll have to cut me off at the hour because I'll just keep going on. Okay, so if anybody has any questions, I'd love to see them in the chat. So feel free to put questions in, and I'll go ahead and share my screen. And let's not postpone joy. Let's talk about major gifts. Oh, Chris, I'm gonna, oh, it says that sharing isn't turned on. Okay, so Chris, while you troubleshoot, if it's okay, I'm just gonna keep going. Okay. Okay. Well, as Chris mentioned, I mean, one major gift can absolutely transform your philanthropic landscape. Oh, here we go. Thank you. So I want to talk to you today about essentially a major gift momentum. There we go. Major gifts, it's an art and it's a science. There's a lot of, I'm going to give you all my tactical tips and tricks today, but there's also benefits to just being your authentic self and bringing your authentic self to fundraising. Because a lot of fundraisers that I work with think that they have two different kind of personalities, like one outside of work and then one in work. And you should just be yourself. Your authentic self is what is going to help donors trust you and relate to you. So without further ado, so over the past couple years, I've been working on a new model for major gifts. So I'm going to give you lots of good tips and tricks today. You can take them and implement them into your program straight away. But I'm also hoping that this is a judgment-free zone, because I'm going to tell you about some huge, awesome wins, but then I'm also going to share some huge, awesome failures. And so if we could just be judgment-free, I would sincerely appreciate that. And this new model that I've been working on is really about shortening the cultivation period by trimming, like instead of going after more people, go after less people, but make sure they're the right people, and then take it a long way, like go all the way with them. So without further ado, I want to quickly tell you a story about how I closed a $100 million gift. Now, this is the biggest gift I'm probably ever going to close. It was back in 2023, and it was in August, and it was kind of the perfect day because after I closed this gift, I went to the Taylor Swift concert. It was epic. Okay, so but I'm sharing this story with you because there's first of all, there's a lot to learn. I'm going to teach you exactly how I did this so that you can go out and close. I mean, even if it's a $10,000 gift, these steps are gold and you'll be able to implement them immediately. Okay, so I had never met this couple before. This couple was giving $25,000 a year to a hospital in San Diego. And this hospital, um, they could not, they just could not break through with these donors. So they hired me to kind of come in and help them figure out a strategy for this donor. So I sent it in January. I sent an introductory email and said I was going to call. Then I called. I had a lovely conversation on the phone with them. They were very lovely. I sent a packet of information. Now, in that first call, I had said, I would like to fly. I live in Oregon, so I'd like to fly down and see you in Southern California. And I'm going to send you a little packet of information. And they said, great, come on down and send us the information. So I sent the info. But when I did, I put a little note in the box and said, when you get this, just give me a call and let me know you received it. Now, I did that because I wanted to see if they would self-select, like that they would pick up the phone and call me. And they did. They called, they said, Mary, we got the packet. I was like, oh, great, fantastic. So I flew down in February. I had a lovely visit with them. And at the end of that visit, I was very clear. I said, not today, not tomorrow, but at some point, I'm going to talk to you about a significant commitment to this hospital. Would that be okay? And they said yes. So I said, great. So in March, we had 2 calls, 2 Zoom meetings, there were 2 emails and 1 kind of text exchange. In April, there were 2 Zooms, 1 call. I remembered that they were having their first grandchild in April. And so I called and said, hey, Grandma and Grandpa, like, how are things going? So it wasn't always about work. In May, I flew down again and had my second in-person meeting with them. And again, 2 calls, 2 texts. So I was in touch with this couple almost every single week. I mean, it was like 3 to 4 times a month. Like I just was like integrating myself into their lives in a very joyful way. In June, they were traveling most of the month. So we just had 1 Zoom call and 2 calls in July. In July on Zoom, I said to them, I have figured out what program works for you. I have figured out what we want to ask you for. And so I'd like to come down in August and ask you for that significant commitment. And they said, okay, come on down. Now, when I got there in August, I did not know this, but they had their CPA and their attorney in the room, which kind of freaked me out a little bit, but it was kind of great because they could talk with them in the room like, okay, we want to make this gift, like we need to move these assets and what do we need to do? And they were talking to their accountant and kind of making it happen, which was lovely because sometimes people will go away for a couple of weeks and try to get a hold of their attorney, and then it just kind of loses momentum. They actually had them in the room. So I asked them for $100 million. 80 million was to go to a piece of equipment that helps with open heart surgery. And the second was a $20 million unrestricted gift. Now, this couple live in California and they own a lot of land and water rights, which in California is kind of a big deal. And a lot of their philanthropy had been based, had kind of come from a place of guilt. Like they knew they owned these water rights. There was a lot of opinions about them owning these water rights. And so they said to me, like, this gift, like this, we're actually coming from a place of joy instead of a place of guilt. And they were very excited about that. So I share this story with you because I learned a lot in this 8-month journey. A lot of fundraisers say, gosh, it takes 2 years to close a gift like that. No, friends, no. Most philanthropists want their money to be put to work as soon as possible. So we're charged with a lot of our societal challenges. I mean, the government does some grants, although very dicey right now. Like nobody really knows what's happening or what's going to happen. But we raise money to feed the hungry. We take care of the sick. We house the homeless. We educate our youth. We take care of the environment and animals, like all of the things. And so while you're out there cultivating for 2 years, the people you serve or the resources that you serve are going without that money. And philanthropists like efficiency. So this is moves management, like the typical moves management of how you move a donor from identification all the way to stewardship. So usually it takes, 1 to 2 months to find a donor, 1 to 2 months to qualify them, right? Make sure they have capacity to make a gift and affinity. Then fundraisers will cultivate for up to 18 months, which I think is criminal, just so it's said out loud. Then you go into solicitation where you ask for the gift, and then you steward that person or that corporation or foundation and thank them for their gift, let them know what kind of impact their gift made. Well, this whole process can take between 8 and 25 months. This is what I think it should take. And this is the new model. And I proved it. I closed that $100 million gift, and my coaching clients are seeing quite a bit of movement with a shorter cultivation period. So this is what I like to call Mary's moves management. So this is, spend a month identifying, sure. Spend a month qualifying, cool. But pick your top 20 prospects and go deep. So cultivation, if you're in touch as much as I was with that couple, then you don't need to spend 2 years. So cultivate for 3 to 6 months and then make your ask. So it should not take you more than, 8 months to close a gift. Sorry, I see a question from Cam. What was your initial ask and then for a meeting regarding donors, or was there a different initial ask? Okay, great questions. So the very first time I met with them in person, I was very clear that I was going to talk to them about a gift at some point, and they were open to it. I had not asked for a gift from this couple until I sat down and asked them for $100 million. Now, they were quite quick to say yes, which made me think I could have asked for more, but I have to kind of let that go. So when I met with them, I had said to them that, or when I was asking for the meeting, I said that I wanted to come down. I wanted to talk to them about a potential program that was coming. I knew that this gentleman had recently had open heart surgery, and this was for the cardiac program. So there was a connection, and they were very interested because he had just went through this massive life-changing experience. So that kind of did get me in the door. If I didn't have that experience to go on, Cam, I would have asked for advice. I would have said, we've got something fun to share with you that's maybe not public yet, like just something to kind of get in the door. And then there's always something that you can tell them that's, you know, kind of interesting that people might not know. So, Kim, I hope that answers your question. So, what we're talking about here is really focus. So, there's this book. Oh, my little thing is cut off, but the graphic comes from a book called Essentialism. Great book, by the way. So, for a long time, I was operating like that circle on the left with all the little arrows. I was making a millimeter of progress on 100 fronts. Ergo, I was making no progress. So this book really taught me like, okay, maybe I shouldn't go in all these different directions. Like maybe I should just take all those arrows and stack them up and go far with less items. And so it's really about focus. It's about picking your top 20 prospects and closing them in the next 8 to 10 months. Now, when you're doing major gifts, it's very important that you go after the right people. So this chart is going to help you understand who to go after. So affinity is love for the organization. Capacity is, do they have the liquidity or the capital to make a gift? So if someone has low affinity and low capacity, you want to bless and release. Like they should not be on your prospect list. They don't love your organization. They don't have enough to make a major gift. They shouldn't be on the radar. Now, if somebody loves your organization, they have really high capacity, or I'm sorry, high affinity, but they can't make a major gift, these are also not your major gift prospects. These people, they might not have cash to give, but they can give time. And so they should be a volunteer or a potential plan giving, like a bequest gift prospect. Or you might have somebody who has lots of capacity, but very low affinity. And this is where a lot of fundraisers get tripped up. Like I live in the Northwest. Like if I hear one more time, like we're just going to ask Bill Gates. Oh, for the love. Yes, Bill Gates can make a massive gift to your organization. But unless you do world health um, work, like in developing countries, he does not have affinity for your organization. So this is where a lot of people will chase whales, big like Elon Musk or Bill Gates or Warren Buffett or Oprah, like all of these people who have amazing capacity. They just your organization just isn't on their radar. So you want to bless and release. Believe me, I spent way too much time chasing whales. Now, your perfect major gift prospects are the ones that love your organization and have capacity to give. These are your major gift prospects. So I want to give you a story about Nick. This is Nick, and this is his actual picture. So Nick, when I first sat down with Nick, Nick had 400 people in his prospect list. And he was in analysis paralysis. I mean, he said, Mary, I don't know what I'm working on. I've called 60 people and I, I don't know what's happening. So we whittled down his list to 60 prospects. And I'm going to go back one slide. We really looked at this chart and said, okay, who are the people that have high affinity and high capacity? And within 6 months, Nick closed $100,000 gift because he focused, right? He was kind of like that circle with all the different arrows. But once we looked at his list and got it going, he was going after the right people at the right time with the right ask. Okay, there we go. So This is huge. So the right portfolio size is critical. You just can't build deep relationships if you're juggling 150 relationships. That's like trying to manage 150 friends. Like, it's a lot. Um, the composition of your portfolio is also very important. So you only want to be in contact with those who you can close in the next 6 to 8 months, and everybody else can kind of wait. And you want to build trust from every single touch point. So from the very first touch point and forward, and that's going to set you up for success. So once you have the right list of people you want to pursue, I want to talk to you a little bit about how to get in the door, because this trips up a lot of fundraisers. So, many of us, we like to fire off like a quick text, like, "Oh, hi, my name's Mary and I'm from the Red Cross. Could we get together for coffee?" Well, that's very easy for us as fundraisers to do, but you have to remember that many savvy philanthropists tend to be a little older. And if they get a text from some rando person that's like, "Can we meet?" They're like, "I don't know who this is." And so you have to remember, it's not about what works for you, it's what works for the prospect. And a lot of times it's the call. It is the call. And I I've got such horror stories about making cold calls. I'll spare you some. I will tell you some. But the cold call is the best way to get into the door. Now, when you're making your cold call, you're going to learn things about the prospect immediately. And you don't have a visual indicator, right? Like, you're only listening to people on the phone. So this is what you're going to learn, like their personality. Like, are they funny? Are they having a bad day? You're going to learn some biographical information, right? Like, maybe, is this person older or are they younger, by the sound of their voice. You're also going to understand like where they are today. Like, is it a good morning? Is it a bad morning? And you're also going to be able to gauge their interest right in like the first 10 seconds. But they're also going to learn a lot about you. They're going to feel if you're nervous or if you're confident. If you're warm or cold, they're going to make assumptions about your age and your gender, and they're going to know if you're smiling or not. So I know this is silly, but when you call, you should smile, because you can hear you. It's a thing, I promise. You can hear joy in someone when they're smiling. Okay. I was so scared to pick up the phone call. This is not Chauncey. Chauncey sadly has passed away, but I just picked this picture because it kind of looked like him. I had real fear to pick up the phone and call a donor, like just a cold call. And I would sit there with my hand. This is when we didn't have cell phones back then, because I'm kind of old. But I would have to pick up my office phone and actually dial the number. And I would sit there with my hand hovering over the phone, like so scared to call, um, which is, not abnormal. But I was so scared. And I thought, I'm just going to call this gentleman. I'm just going to call him. Like, so I picked up the phone and I dialed the number super fast, and he answered. And I knew this gentleman was a great prospect. And I was working in healthcare, and I know that he had just been to the hospital recently. So I picked up the phone, and I said, "Hi, Chauncey. My name is Mary. I'm calling from Good Samaritan Hospital." And he immediately was like, "Oh, thank goodness you called, because, I'm having this issue with," he had had back surgery. "I'm having this issue with my back." And anyway, he starts to go into it. And I was like, "Oh, actually, I'm from the foundation." Like, I'm not a nurse. I can't help you with any of these things. And he kind of got a laugh, and he said, "Oh, okay, okay." Um, and I said, I'd love to come meet with you." And he kind of objected. He said, you don't take time with me. There's other people to pursue, and I said, no, your opinion matters. I want to spend time with you. Anyway, he kind of was just like, no. Well, anyway, I kind of moved on, and I said, well, how's your recovery coming? And he said, well, I have, my doctor says I need to walk every day. Now, I knew that Chauncey lived alone. He was a widower, and his kids were grown. And I don't know where this came from. It was probably divine intervention. But I said, well, why don't I come and walk with you? And he was like, okay. And I thought, oh my gosh, like I'm in the door. Now, I had not thought to say that. I didn't know he was going to tell me that he was walking. Anyway, I walked with him for like 4 days a week for 6 weeks. It was like my own personal walkathon. And this was in the winter. It was snowy. Like I was very committed to the job. But at the end of the day, 6 months into my relationship with Chauncey, we got a $250,000 gift from him. And it's all about just spending time with your donors and inviting them to engage. So someone's voice can make a huge impression. Your voice makes an impression. So they're going to know, are you a friend or a foe from the get-go? So you want to smile, you want to be polite, you want to be your authentic self, right? Like if you're funny, be funny. If you're a caring person, be caring. Just be you, because that's what creates like the stickiness. You want to enunciate and speak very slowly, because when we get nervous, we tend to like speak very quickly. And you also want to be confident. You have this amazing job of raising money for a mission that you love. So you should feel good about that. Now, when I do cold calls, and this took me a long time to figure out, but what I do is I do quick introduction, I do a connecting statement, and then I get to the reason why I'm calling. So I just put 3 examples here for you. So I'll just go with the middle one. I always say, am I speaking with Mrs. Hernandez? Or sorry, Martinez. Um, my name is Mary Peterson. I'm calling from the American Cancer Society. I see that you've been giving for 14 consecutive years to our Hope Lodge in Boston. So that's the connecting statement. So that person will be like, oh, yes. And wow, it's been 14 years. You have our deepest gratitude. What has inspired you to continue giving to that program? So right off the bat, you're asking the prospect to remember why they gave, which is typically a very positive experience. And then once we have a nice conversation, then you transition to the reason for calling. So we've been meeting with our closest supporters to update them on the program and pitch a few new ideas. Could you come by the lodge next week? What day works for you? So it should be a very lovely introduction, connection statement, reason for calling. Now, you're going to get a lot of objections, just like I did with Chauncey. Like, now's not a great time to talk. Don't waste your time talking with me. There's better people out there. Why do you want to talk to me? I don't know if I can be helpful. We don't need to meet. Just send me information. And so what I've done here is I've written the responses that have really helped me get past those objections. And what I'd like to do is send this deck over to Chris. And so Chris can distribute it after this webinar. We don't have to go through each one, but these have saved me a lot of times. So, print it out, keep it on your desk when you're going to do cold calls. It'll help. Now, this day and age, you get a lot of voicemails. And so the key is to leave a killer voicemail. And there's 2 goals. One is get them to call you back, or at least answer the phone next time you call. So here are 3 voicemails that I like to use. And I'm going to take you through them because they're very strategic. Now, I only call a prospect 3 times. If they don't get back to me, I bless and release. Like there are other people to pursue. So my first voicemail, I would say, "Hi, Mr. Shrum, this is Mary Peterson, and my phone number is this." Now, that is my actual phone number, by the way. So the reason I say my phone number up front is because most people read their voicemails these days. And so I don't want them to have to scroll. I just want them to know the phone number. I work for the Health Foundation. Because you've supported nursing education, I wanted to share with you some changes to the program. Your opinion and advice would be so helpful. Please call me at this number and I'll try you back in a couple days. So they could call back, which would be amazing. If they don't call back a couple days later, I'll leave the second voicemail. "Hi, Mr. Shrum. This is Mary with the Health Foundation. Here's my phone number. We've been meeting with nursing education supporters, and our meetings have been going very well." Right? So you're starting to put a little like FOMO in there. We're getting some great advice. We're eager for your thoughts. So please give me a call. I promise it will be very joyful, fun, 30-minute conversation. Please call me at this number, and I'll also follow up via email in case that's your preferred method of communication. So what I've done is I've introduced FOMO, and I've also introduced a new communication. So then I would follow up with an email. And then my last voicemail, and I will tell you, this has gotten me so many calls back, like shocking amount. "Hi, Mr. Shrum, Mary here from the Health Foundation at," and then here's my number. "We seem to be having trouble connecting, and I certainly don't want to fill up your voicemail. I'm still interested in meeting with you. Because we haven't been able to connect, I'm going to go ahead and take you off my call list. This is my cell number if you'd like to call or text. I'm here. Thanks for all you've done for nursing education." So I did a couple things here. I said I introduced another way to communicate so he can text. I've also said, "I'm going to take you off my call list." I don't know what these words are, like magic. People just don't want to be taken off the list. So this voicemail has gotten me tons of calls. So just put that in your back pocket. So when you get in with a prospect, you just want to be building trust from every single touch point. So I always keep the ball in my court. I would never, I would never say something like, um, I would never say, "Give me a call when you have time," because that's giving the ball to them. I always say, "I'll try you back in a couple days." Um, or something like, if you're meeting with a donor and just you wouldn't want to say like, "Oh, give me a call when you want to set up lunch or our next meeting." I would say, "I'll give you a call to set up our," that way, like they don't have to do anything and you're managing the relationship. Always be transparent about why you're calling. I mean, if somebody says, "Are you calling me for a gift?" I would be very clear and say, just like I did with that couple in San Diego, like, "I'm not going to ask you today. I'm not going to ask you tomorrow. But when I find the right program and it's the right time, yes, I would like to explore a gift with you." There's nothing wrong with that. Always follow through, like be that really reliable person in their life. Always agree to next steps. So I'm a big fan of permission-based major gifts. What this means is that whenever you talk with a donor, before you end that call, in that lunch meeting, end that email, that you're agreeing to next steps. So let's say I was soliciting Chris and I had just had my first meeting with him and we went to coffee. Before that meeting ended, I would say, "So Chris, I'd like to bring you in to see some of our programs. Could I give you a call next week and get that on your calendar?" And most likely he'll say, "Yes, sure." So what you're doing is you're keeping the ball in your court, but you're also agreeing to next steps. You also want to be interested, not interesting. So your donors are the stars. And so you don't want to be the person that talks more in the meeting. You don't want to like one up anybody, like just be interested in them and let them be the interesting person. And then bless and release. Like if you find that a prospect is not a good prospect, then you can thank them for giving and move on to the next person. So I once went to lunch with a woman, very, very, very wealthy woman. I mean, her name was on university buildings and her name was all over town. And she could have easily wrote my organization a check for $5 million and not blinked an eye. But when I sat down to lunch with her, she talked about how much she loved the local humane society and how much she loved the local university. I did not work for either one of those organizations. And so I thanked her. I had a great lunch. I thanked her. I said, I'm going to keep you on our email list, but she was not a good prospect. And so I blessed and released. And it was hard, right? Because she had huge capacity. So when you have your first meeting, you want to understand like what is this person giving to? If they're giving to your organization, are they giving unrestricted, or do they give, like if you work for a university, do they give all their money to the engineering program? Well, if they are, then like brush up on what's happening in the engineering program. You also want to have some questions prepared that will help you understand what your prospect cares about. So things like, um, what inspired your first gift? Like that's a great question to understand what made them come to your organization. So you want to ask questions, listen deeply, and it is okay. I know I sound like a broken record, but it is okay to bless and release. Okay, this is Marsha, sweet Marsha. She is one of my coaching clients, and we talked about she was going to meet a prospect for the first time. And she would get nervous in meetings, and she would just talk very quickly and all the things. Well, she went to this meeting and I said, call me back after the meeting. I can't wait to hear how it goes. So she called and she was like, oh my gosh, Mary, it was such a great meeting. I, I, I told her about this program and this program and this program. And then at one point, I got my computer out and showed her this PowerPoint deck that I'd been working on for something else. And she was like, I think it went really well. And I said, Marsha, it did not go well. Like, what did you learn about her? And Marsha was like, nothing. I mean, nothing. I mean, Marsha, from what Marsha said, she spoke like 90% of the meeting. That is not a good way to kick off things with a prospect. So that's why I share that story with you. Okay. So these are, again, we'll circulate this deck, but these are my 15 best questions to ask during cultivation. So it's okay to say, like, are we in your top 3 funding priorities? What keeps you involved with this organization? What other organizations are close to your heart? What inspired your first gift? Like these questions, by the time you know the answers to these questions, you will be able to ask for a large gift. And then again, less is more. So pick your top 20 prospects and go deep. I would be in touch 2 to 3 times a month, and every touch point should be quality, based on what the donor cares about. So ideas for you to reach out would be like, you can give a program update. You can ask questions. You can share a great story that you heard. Or you could do what I did. Like I knew that in April, this couple was going to have their first grandchild. So I called to see how that was going. So just be in touch and be consistent. And here are some sticky trust strategies. And these are just things that, 25 years of learning. So for example, I don't ever start a question with the word why. So the word why is very offensive and it puts people on the defense. So I would never say, why did you make your first gift to our organization? Because it kind of feels like you're asking them to justify why they give. And that doesn't feel good. So instead of saying why, I say, tell me what inspired your first gift. You want to be authentic. You want to, be honest about the challenges that your business or nonprofit is facing. You want to communicate often, effectively, and openly. You want to have genuine curiosity and actively listen to what your donors are telling you. Um, and always seek permission for next steps. So this is Anna. Hannah had done all the things right. She cultivated, she was in touch with these donors, prospects, and she called me. I knew she was going on this big solicitation. It was her first six-figure ask. It was for 250,000. And she called me and she was stuck in her car. She was like, I'm sitting in their driveway. My legs will not move. I cannot get out of this car. Now I was like, Anna, you better get out of that car. But she was like, I'm scared. I am so scared to ask for this gift. So we talked for a few minutes. I said, Anna, you've done all of the right things. You've built the trust. I mean, at one point she was like, okay, they're looking out the window at me. I mean, it was like, it was a whole situation, but she did finally get out of that car, go in and closed that $250,000 gift. So I know there's fear. There's a lot of anxiety when it comes to asking for a gift. Because you put yourself in a very vulnerable position. I mean, what if somebody says no? But Anna got out of the car and she closed the gift. So a lot of my coaching clients, they're like, tell me the exact verbiage that you use to close gifts. So I actually have 15 different ways to ask for a gift based on the personality. But these are the three that I really use the most. So a lot of donors, some donors give from their head, right? They want stats, they want impact, they want all the data. A lot of donors give from their heart. They want to feel something. And then some donors just give from their gut. They get a good feeling about you, they get a good feeling about the organization, and they'll make a gift. And so these are my three solicitations that I use the most, the actual verbiage. So I call it the storyteller. Ruth, let me tell you about Maria. Because of our program, she went from homeless to employed. With a gift of 75,000, we can help 10 more people like Maria this year. Would you consider a gift at that level? So you're telling a little story, you're showing her kind of the impact. It hits donors that give from the head. It also hits donors that give from the heart. Okay, the negotiator. This would be for like an attorney or somebody that really likes to negotiate. Instead of saying, would you consider a gift of $100,000? You might say something like, what would it take to get you to $1 million this year? That's a totally different ask. And then also the partnership ask. People want to feel included, that they're working shoulder to shoulder with you. So Tom, you have been such a champion for our mission. We see you as a true partner in this work. Would you consider investing $1 million to help us scale whatever, this initiative, this project, whatever? So these are the three asks that I use the most. Now, oftentimes we over solicit, and I did this way too much. Like, it would be fall and I would say, oh, the gala is coming up. Would you consider a gift of, or buy a table for $5,000? And then it'd be December and it's year end. You're like, oh gosh, it's year end. Would you consider a $2,500 gift? And then spring rolls around and, oh, here's the golf tournament. Like, oh my gosh, I was just over soliciting. So one day I decided I'm just going to ask once and thank for 364 days. So really think about what you want to ask your prospect for and build a menu. And I would try to include things that are monetary and non-monetary. So this sample menu on the right, if I was soliciting, Janine, I would say, Janine, here's what we're hoping 2025 looks like. We'd love to see you at 100,000 to support research. We're hoping that you can host a small dinner party at your home with, 4 to 6 couples. We'd love to see you purchase a table at the gala. We want you to raise your paddle at 10,000 at the gala to create this awesome momentum in the room. And we'd like you to introduce us to 2 couples who might be interested in supporting us. Like, that's a good ask. Plus, you probably won't get a no because they'll do something on the list. Like they might say, I can do the 100K for research. I can do the dinner party. I'm actually going to be out of town for the gala, so I can't do that. But yes, I'll introduce you. So ask once and thank for 364 days. So similar, this is Lindsay. Lindsay was over asking. When she sat down and actually thought through what she wanted to ask for, and this was in 2024, she actually closed a $1.1 million gift because she had her thoughts together and she could sit down and present a great opportunity to a donor. So instead of piecemealing it all together, you actually get larger gifts when you ask for the year. Now, asking for a gift is very scary. It used to be so scary for me. My very first, this is the no judgment zone area that I was talking about. When I asked for my very first gift, it was a $25,000 gift. This woman had been giving to the museum that I worked for. She'd been giving 25,000 for 8 years. So I thought, this is such a layup. Like, I'm going to ask her for 25K. Well, I went and I missed words. It was such a terrible ask. And she said no. And I was like, okay. And I kind of just left. It was very awkward. I cried. But what that, well, actually, a couple months later, I got the gift from her in the mail. And so I called and her name was Carol. I said, Carol, we got your gift. And she said, yeah, it was just really the timing. I just couldn't make it that day, but I had, was going to make a gift. So when you're asking for a gift, always keep these 4 questions in your back pocket because you want to handle a no way better than I did on my first solicitation. So, are you asking for the right program? Are you asking for the right amount or the timing? Is it me? Like, am I the right person to be asking for this gift? And then also, like, what are their feelings about the institution? Is there something that's holding them up from asking for that large gift? Okay, we covered a lot. I kind of want to open it up for questions. And Chris is here too, so I know he'll help facilitate.
Yes, you did a
Okay.
great job.
Oh,
My
thanks.
notebook is full of notes, so I know
Okay.
everyone got some great
Thanks.
questions.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'd love to take any questions if you have, prospects or anything. I mean, I'm a major gift coach, so if you have any challenges or anything, I'd love to help.
I'll kick off a question to get things going, I
Oh,
guess.
sure.
Since you have worked with very seasoned nonprofits and newer nonprofits, what is the biggest mind shift for them from moving from the smaller donors mindset to here now I need to look at my major donors or major contributors? How do you make that mind shift?
Yeah. Great question. Okay. So smaller donors um, tend to, well, let me rephrase. Fundraisers oftentimes will come from a place of scarcity because we work in nonprofits where budgets are tight and things are tight and we want to we want to raise everything, we want to save money, all the things. But when you're working with donors, and I would say donors that give $1,000 or more, you want to come from a place of abundance. because that's where they're coming from. So when they come from a place of abundance, but you come from a place of scarcity,
I love that.
it's very hard to connect. So coming from a place of abundance means thinking bigger, thinking about your programming, and not necessarily what's happening today, but what could happen tomorrow, with an infusion of $50,000 into a program. So I would give you permission to dream a little bit about what do you see for your organization, because your donors appreciate abundance and vision and will come alongside you with larger gifts when you can show what tomorrow looks like.
No, that's
That
so no, that's
okay.
so
Okay, good. Um, if I could just say one more thing.
Go ahead.
Um, I'd like to, for those out there that are really kind of launching a major gift program, like you have a lot of smaller donors or you're just dipping your toe into major gifts, I want to give you a three-pronged strategy that has raised me millions of dollars, millions. I mean, over 25 years. Okay. The first thing to do to kick off your major gift program is to have a very small event. I mean, my perfect event for you is like you around a dinner table with 4 or 5 couples, and each of those couples could write you a check for $10,000. Now, this very small, very intimate dinner party ideally would be at someone's home, and so they can stand up and say, this organization is the best thing we should be thinking about in 2025 because, A, B, C, whatever. And I would also talk about at that dinner party sustainability, and that you want to take that money that you raised tonight. So let's say you raised $30,000. Let's say 3 of the 5 couples gave a $10,000 gift. I would take that 30,000 and use it as a match to attract 30 donors to stretch to the $1,000 mark. So it's not a dollar to dollar match. Like, oh, if somebody gives $5, they're matched $5. No, to get matched, you have to give $1,000 and you have to be a new $1,000 donor. This is going to allow you to see who self-selects and springboards up to 1K. And then the third prong is that any donor that's giving $1,000 a year to your organization for 3 consecutive years, I would automatically ask for a $10,000 commitment. So you're going to get one of 2 responses. One, they're going to say, yes, Mary, here's a check. And when they do that, we have learned that we under-solicited, because if it's so easy for them to write that check, we're going to ask for more next time. The second response is, gosh, like 1,000 to 10,000 is a big leap. And you can pledge that over a couple years. So you're still getting them from $1,000 up to 33 or 5,000. And it's all about just gradually getting people up the stairs. So that's how I would kick off any major gift program. Small dinner party, use that money to get a match. And then when those people are giving for 3 consecutive years, ask them for 10K.
No, that's so
It's a
good.
lot of work. Yeah.
I mean, it is really relationship building.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely. What are some kind of behind the scene things that we should be doing as CEOs, executive directors, development director? What are we things we should be doing behind the scenes in preparation for that first ask or that first call?
I would say, oh gosh, well, one, know your vision,
Mhm.
know what you want your organization to look like. I mean, even 5 years from now, like have that North Star and be able to articulate it. Um, Also, I would say one of the best things you can do is bring people in to see your programming live. So make sure that your program experts, the people who are actually doing the programming, that they know that somebody's going to come and watch, because you don't want to throw them off. But bring people in. That is the best thing you can do, because once people see those kids learning, or they see these dogs being saved or they see trees being planted, like whatever the organization you work for, um, you'll get lifelong donors. So a lot of organizations don't bring donors in to see the work. So that I would say that's one of the biggest things you can do is bring them in and then tell them what tomorrow looks like.
No, I like that. I like that. You're making a personal connection with that. I call them creating experiences, right?
Yes, yes. You want to, yes, yeah, curate a great experience. Yes, yeah.
Well, we are close to time, Mary, but how can someone follow you? Can you speak more about Hey Fundraiser and what that
Yeah.
looks like, and what will be someone else's next step?
Oh, sure. So well, one, I have a podcast. If you want to hear more about major gifts and we talked about today, it's just the Hey Fundraiser podcast. And then you can always go to heyfundraiser.com to reach out to me or see like any of my coaching programs. So that's how you can find me.
Awesome, awesome. I
Okay.
really appreciate your time. A
Of
wealth
course.
of knowledge. I mean, you say you've been doing this for 20 plus years, so I'm sure you have some stories in that journey.
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, thank you for having me. This was so lovely. And I'm happy to come back anytime.
Awesome, awesome.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mary. I
Okay.
appreciate you.
Okay. Take care.
Bye bye.
Okay. Bye.
Well, it looked like Tracy had one follow up question.
Yeah, so this is the time where we give the students the opportunity to ask questions. We always get those answered from our guest. So if you have any additional questions, you could type it in the chat.
Tracy said she was driving, was not